Hello everyone, my name is AJ, and today I'll be rewriting and redesigning Adam and Eve from Hazbin Hotel. But first, a few items of business. First of all, we have hit 500 subscribers. We actually hit it a while ago, but we're celebrating it now because this is the first voiceover video that I'm doing since we hit it. That's a goal that I've had for a long time, and I'm so glad that we finally hit it. Also big news, I got a new microphone so that way that my voice doesn't sound terrible. It was recommended to me by a YouTuber called Melody Ever After. I'll have her linked in the description. And also there will be spoilers for Hazbin Hotel in this video, so if you haven't seen the whole thing yet, probably go do that. You don't have to. Moving on. So I was gonna make a video about how my animated series Otherverse is going right now, but then Hazbin Hotel dropped on Amazon Prime, and I simply had no choice but to watch the entire thing. Hazbin Hotel is an animated series created by Spindlehorse Studios about sinners trying to redeem themselves and get into heaven, and it takes a lot of inspiration from Christian mythology. Though the writing isn't the greatest stuff to ever be written, it succeeded in being entertaining enough for me to get hyperfixated on both it and the actual Bible. I legitimately got back into reading my scriptures regularly because I love this show so much. It focuses around the main character Charlie, who is the daughter of Lucifer. The hotel that rehabilitates sinners was her idea, and she's trying very hard to get heaven on her side to make her dreams a reality. Of course, this doesn't go well in the slightest. Our season 1 boss is Adam, the first angel in heaven who has a god complex about being humanity's dad and is an enormous jerk about it. And that's it. That's his entire character. Now, before you crucify me, you Adam stands. I see you. I hear you. I'm one of you. I like him too. I think he's silly. He's one of my favorite characters, and I would be lying to myself if I said he was anywhere close to well written. He just objectively is not. His personality doesn't make any world building sense, and he doesn't have any motivation to do the things that he does. Also, the amount of Eve erasure in this show is ridiculous and it's rude. Not only did they replace her once, but twice. First with this girl named Lilith, who we haven't really seen anything of yet at all, and then later with Lute, who just hangs out with Adam, and really I don't understand her relationship to him. I don't know if he sees her as a daughter or as a friend. Are they dating? It's unclear. So I wasn't going to redesign Adam at first. I was just going to change his writing because I really do like his design. But then I looked at him for too long and I realized, but what if I made it better? So I didn't change a whole lot. It just changed a few minor details. I gave him like an opening in the front of his cloak so we can see the abs. The chest, the best part of a man. I'm so cringe. Anyway. The main part of him that I changed was his actual face, because in the show, at the very end, the ending battle, we get to see that all of the angels are actually wearing masks. That's not actually what they look like, and I think what's under his face, I feel like I'm not the only one who was incredibly disappointed with how he looked. Like, he's fine. He looks fine. But he just looks like a normal guy, and it doesn't look right in the show. Like, in the show, they go to heaven to go have, like, a talk about trying to get their hotel to happen, right? And in that episode, they have a song called Welcome to Heaven, and in that song, there is a line where they say, everyone in heaven is hot. And I'm sorry, but this is just not my idea of angelic hot. This is just normal guy fine. So for when I redesigned his face, I decided to go in the same direction that they went when they drew Angel Dust, where like the head and the hair don't have any lines separating it. It's just one big ball of fluff. And add some gradients. I added some gradients in there to give like the illusion of hair and face being different bits. But that was it, really. I also added like some scars in there because Adam was the first man to ever live. And if we combine what we know about science and what we know about the scriptures, he probably was alive for a good portion of Paleolithic times before they had invented farming. So he might have gotten some scars from fighting and killing animals and that kind of thing. So now to change the writing. Hazbin Hotel is fantastic at writing character interactions, which is the only reason why the show is good. If the characters didn't have an immense amount of chemistry between them, I don't think anyone would like this show, because the world building is just trash, especially surrounding heaven and angels and everything to do with that. For as entertaining as Adam is, oh my goodness, they butchered him so bad. He's not written like the first man to ever live. He's written like a modern-day youth pastor with an ego problem. You could simply change that. You don't even have to change the name, and the show would be greatly improved. For heaven's sake, there's even a line in the show when he says he got into heaven by, quote, sticking it to the man. No, he friggin' did it. There was no man. He is the man. This man invented society. He could not rebel against anyone other than God. And the first time he did it, it was a one-time thing. The only time where he did anything rebellious, it ruined everything. It brought death to humanity and was just overall a bad experience. They also characterize him in the first episode as having adult relationships with other women that are not Eve, and that's just so weird. You're telling me this man has a god complex about everyone to ever live being descended from him, but is also sleeping around? It just feels icky and weird. And he doesn't even bring Eve up once. The show only acknowledges her existence twice. Once in the beginning narration as like a footnote, and as a one-off joke in the finale. They never give him any motivation for wanting to do the extermination so badly. Oh, if you haven't watched the show, once a year a special team of angels goes down to hell to keep their population under control by just destroying a whole bunch of them. What is Adam's motivation for doing something so extreme that he refuses to do anything else, even when confronted with evidence and that there are other options? He's a jerk. That's it. That is just objectively bad writing. I just don't understand how they fumbled him so bad when everything you need to write an excellent character was sitting right there in the source material. So, how would I write Adam? First thing I would do is switch out Luke for Eve. I want Adam and Eve to be treated like one person. Separate beings with their own personalities, strengths, and weaknesses, but so unified in purpose, morals, and drive that they function as one character. Hazbin Hotel does a lot of subtle characterization for its characters in the way that they move around and are animated, so we can do the same thing for Adam and Eve. They would be constantly touching each other in some way, especially just holding hands. It would just make it really obvious that these two are a couple and they are still in love. I would also extend this to the combat scene at the end. I designed the two of them to fill in each other's gaps perfectly. Adam has big wings for covering long distances quickly, and Eve has smaller wings for making quick tight turns for evading shrapnel and fighting in small spaces. Adam is bigger and more muscular for stronger but slower attacks. Eve is smaller and more petite, but also way faster. When they're fighting, they would lock themselves together back to back to cover all their blind spots. Since they can't both have their wings out at the same time, they would have to switch depending on what kind of flying they needed at that time, which is a weakness that the main characters could exploit in order to separate them so that they're easier to pick off. Now for motivation. Getting a motivation for the two of them was literally the easiest thing in the world. It's ridiculous. They even have it in the show, written in, that Lucifer tricked them into eating the fruit of good and evil. I'm not quite sure how they choose to interpret the fruit of good and evil as being. Some people interpret it as being literal, some people interpret it as being intercourse before marriage, but I came from one of those sects where it's interpreted literally, so that's what I'm gonna go with for my rewrite. So eating the fruit of good and evil brought them knowledge, and it brought them free will, according to the show, but it also brought them death, both to them and every other human that would ever live. You think they don't feel horribly guilty about that? They would hate Lucifer with everything they've got, and his daughter by extension. Now, we could leave it here with them just with their only motivation being that they're angry and want revenge for being tricked into bringing death to them and their family. But there's so much more. We can push this even farther. You see, Cain and Abel, they were the first two of Adam's kids to ever be named in the original text. Now they definitely had more kids before Cain and Abel, but these are the first that are named. So their story is pretty simple. They were ordered by God to do animal sacrifices, and Cain refused to do that. He sacrificed vegetables instead, which got the Lord pretty upsetty spaghetti at him. And rather than changing his behavior or trying to figure out why he was supposed to do animal sacrifice, he decided to murder his brother because his brother was doing it right. Whether or not Lucifer told him to do this, Lucifer told him to do this in the original text, but whether or not Lucifer actually told him to do this in Hazbin Hotel could be up for debate. I think it would be kept unclear, at least in the first season. But Adam and Eve definitely believe that Lucifer tricked their son like he tricked them. So that would give them even more reason to hate him and his daughter. They would think of him as someone who didn't just bring death to them and all of their children, but also actively encouraged their children to hurt each other. They would blame Lucifer entirely for all of the sinners being in hell in the first place. Instead of refusing Charlie's rehabilitation idea just because they're jerks that don't want the status quo to change, they would refuse because they don't trust her. She's Lucifer's daughter. She cannot be trusted. In the Heaven Council scene, they would convince the court that Charlie's true plan wasn't to rehabilitate sinners, it was to get spies into heaven so she could conquer it. This would play on the paranoia that Heaven has surrounding hell, which has been established in the opening narration. That was why the extermination started in the first place, was because they didn't want hell to rebel against them and take over. I think Adam and Eve would also view the exterminations as a mercy to the sinners. Since they can't get into heaven and everything good comes from heaven, these sinners have nothing left to live for and nothing left to struggle for. They would see the exterminations more like putting down a suffering dog rather than ending the lives of actual people. All of these reasons combined would lead to a much more logical and emotionally complex story than the black and white story we actually got. Don't get me wrong, I love Hazbin Hotel. I'm deeply invested, I'm really interested, I'm so entertained, but I would be lying if I said this was an emotionally complex narrative. It just isn't. It tackles adult subjects with the same complexity and nuance as a kids show. And there's nothing wrong with that, but also, it could be more. And I wish it were more, but oh well, too late now. I am really excited for season 2. I hope they turn down the amount of swearing a little bit, because I swear everybody in this show, including the angels, talk like 13-year-old boys on COD that haven't discovered slurs yet. But the rest of the writing is pretty solid. I have no idea where the story is gonna go next, and I'm so stinking excited to see what happens next. I did have a lot more thoughts on the show that I didn't include in this version of the script. If you want to go read my old drafts of the script, you can go to my Patreon. They are on there. Also, you can commission me on Ko-fi and through my Instagram DMs. The links will be in the description. Thank you so much to all of my patrons, old and new, both current and ex. You mean the absolute world to me. You collectively came together to help me pay for my college textbooks, and I really would not be here where I am today without you all. I love you. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.